failing upwards. This is something that we always facetiously talk about, and it's a very tongue-in-cheek topic for you and I, but it is a real thing, that's for sure.
Sure. And okay, so this is about 45 minutes long. So just settle. No, just kidding. It's about a 4-minute presentation, and then we'll talk about it afterward. Right, have a job where not only are you not punished. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have a job where not only are you not punished for your failures, but you're actually rewarded for them? So this is an instructional video about how you too can have a job where you are rewarded for your failures. Okay, so the daydream of having a job where you would actually get promoted the more you failed wouldn't occur to the average person. I mean, you would think, well, what do you mean I'm going to be rewarded for my failures? If I do a bad job, I'm going to be demoted. I'm going to be punished. Well, that is because you are normal. You actually have a sense of integrity and a sense of doing a good job in order to get promoted. Well, there is a class of people out there who are rewarded for their failures. Let's take a look at one stark example that just came out today. So, out of Zero Hedge, Biden administration rewards school lockdown champion with Homeland Security role. The Biden administration has appointed the person who pushed hardest for schools to remain closed during the worldwide flu to a new position within the Department of Homeland Security. Randy Weingarten, the controversial head of American Federation of Teachers Union, will be one of the new members of a Homeland Security Academic Partnership Council. The newly formed council will provide strategic and actionable recommendations to the security on campus safety and security, improved coordination, research priorities, hiring, and more. Weingarten recently attempted to rewrite history, claiming she spent every waking day during the worldwide flu trying to open schools, despite the fact that her union aggressively pushed for lockdowns at the local level and lobbied to keep them in place. Here's a tweet by Nikki Nelly. Randy Weingarten has gone from dictating the CDC's school reopening guidance to now advising the Department of Homeland Security on how to keep students safe. Randy should have no role in government. The Biden administration puts teachers' unions over parents every single time. Okay, so I know that none of you are surprised at this, okay? If you belong to the club, you are a protected class. It is just a well-known fact that 95% of government employees are liberals. And you can tell that by the size of their donations to the Democratic Party. Yes, about 95% of government contributions to election campaigns go to Democrats. It doesn't matter what your qualifications are for a job in government. What matters is, do you toe the line? The Department of Education is a classic example, right? The Department of Education, it sounds nice, right? Hey, they're going to look out for the kids. They don't look out for the kids at all. This is a lobbying group, a government-backed lobbying group for the teachers union. It's all about the teachers. I mean, another good example is Pete Buttigieg. What? He's the transportation secretary? So again, in government, once you get to a certain executive level, you're solid. It doesn't matter how bad you are at your job. You will get promoted. You just have to go to the right cocktail parties. You have to know the right people. And whenever anybody tries to call you on your failures, you can just deny it. Even though we have you on tape, in congressional testimony saying things, you can still just deny it and get away with it. Mostly because the media is in on it as well. So if you want a job where you are secure, where it doesn't matter how much you screw up, you're still going to get promoted, go to work for the government. Now, I know that a lot of people who work for the government, especially at local levels, these are people who actually are public servants and they're trying to do their job every day. But as soon as you get into the management class and higher, you're in. Okay, you're golden. It doesn't matter how much you screw up. There is no accountability in government because they're all in on it. Okay, and that's my observation for the day.
All right. Once again, failing upwards, I bet you didn't have to go very far to find some screenshots of those people.
No. They're all over the page, these examples. And I could have gone on for an hour showing you examples, but
It was
everyone knows. I'm not telling people anything new, anything they don't already know. This is more of a talking point.
So something new happened here in Australia that you might not have seen through the week. I don't know if you saw the shorts videos, because I put out a lot of videos, and I'm not sure if you saw it. There was one from Senator Jackie Lambie. So Jackie Lambie represents, she's an independent down in Tasmania. So she doesn't have a huge constituency, but she's a pretty loud voice in Parliament, and because she sits as an independent, she wields quite a bit of power and negotiating power, which is a really good thing. That's the way government is supposed to work. But Jackie is she was in the army, she's ex-army. And in the last couple of years, the Australian Special Forces have been dragged across the coals and, dragged through the ringer about war crimes allegations. And the leadership of the Australian Defence Force were never held to the same standard of accountability. And through the Ben Roberts-Smith public hearings, it had come out that a bunch of war crimes were being committed, and people were doing the wrong thing. And it went all the way up the chain of command in Special Forces, and they came back and said, look, the integrity of the regiment is what matters. What we're going to do is handle this internally, so we're going to leave it as it is. And the boss, the chief of the Australian Defence Force, was in charge of special operations during this time period. And he's been asked several times in public hearings, are you going to hand back your Distinguished Service Cross? Are you going to hand back these medals? Are you going to do that? And he just keeps saying, well, that's not for me to say. But eventually he's done the right thing and handed it back. So that's a good thing. But Jackie Lambie has been so upset about all of this, and she calls it a giant boys club. And to your point about failing upwards, the military leadership in Australia didn't fail upwards so much, but what they did is they just let the people down at the sharp end of the spear, the lower end of the echelon, take all the blame for everything. So she referred these people to the International Criminal Court. And she's like, I've been trying to get a meeting with the boss of the Defence Force for months and months. Nobody's listening. What am I going to do? And I'm telling you for the last time, here's the opportunity for you to come clean on it and do something about it. I've referred you to the International Criminal Court. And so the threshold for that, so just think of this, man. America is not even part of the ICC. So, and there's a very defined reason for that. I think there's only America and 2 other countries that are not part of it. And the reason for that is you can only be reported there and get them to take action if the country that is reporting you has done nothing about it. So that's her threshold for these people in leadership failing upwards. And we've seen this time and time again in the Australian government. We did a couple of videos about this recently where there was some Senate estimates hearings, and these people were, pretty much destroying the country as a result of their policies throughout COVID. And then they were promoted and then they were given better jobs. There was a case of the person who was responsible for human resources for the Australian Defence Force, who started the job 6 or 7 years ago, and 6 or 7 years later today, there's only 100 people more in the Australian Defence Force, even though their remit is to get more and more people to actually join. And they're just unable to do it. They're unable to get cut through with their message. They don't know what they're doing, and they're just absolutely hopeless, but there's no accountability. And that's the thing I think that grinds most people's gears, is that there's no accountability. And we've seen this week Jackie Lambie come out and hold the government to account and hold the military leadership to account by referring them to a third party. And I thought to myself, man, there's something really going wrong there. There is a real breakdown of communication. If the Australian Defence Force cannot give a senator 1 hour of her time or 1 hour of their time, say, what's the matter? What's wrong? Why are you jumping up and down and squawking so badly? What's the matter? Come and show us. And then she goes there and does that, and then they're like, they don't do anything about it. So she couldn't even get the meeting to tell them what was wrong. And she was urging people in Parliament, in the Senate, to actually allow her to table the documents to show people what had actually happened. And the leadership knew about it. So it seems like there is some accountability, but I doubt that anyone will have to do anything other than say sorry. It's like,
well, again, once you get to a certain level, once you get to that executive level, you don't feel the need to have to justify yourself. There's the arrogance when you get to that level. I'll just ignore, and eventually she'll go away. I'll just ignore, I won't show up, and eventually she'll get tired of asking. That's what they think. So Not that old saying, right? It's not what you know these days. It's who you know, right? As far as getting the job that you want. You know, government is corrupt, and it's a big boys club. Exactly, it's one big boys club. And
Well, we've seen that here in the Australian Defence Force as well, and that was brought to light again with the AUKUS deal, with the submarine deal that we did. Sorry to keep talking about the military, but the things that kind of stand out the most, first of all, because they're such big projects, right? They're massive projects. So we had the contract go out. What submarines are we going to buy? The Collins class submarines need to go away. They're going to become obsolete soon. So So we looked at the Japanese ones, the French ones, some German ones, some American stuff as well. And eventually ScoMo killed all of the deals and said, do this AUKUS thing. So we're getting Virginia class submarine. That's the right, it ticks the right box.